Hello and welcome to Taylor Talks Comics Live. Yes, James Abel, what year is it? It is 2025. I am back with Taylor Talks Comics Live. This is going to be a weekly show. I'm going to do it weekly every Wednesday at noon for the foreseeable future. Something I miss doing. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Drop some comments. I always like this to be a live conversation, live discussion about comic book news whenever I do these shows. But I've been wanting to bring it back for a number of years, number of months. It just time and things, and summer's always busy in the house because my wife is a teacher and my son is out of school, so they're both out for the summer. So we try to spend some time together and do some stuff there. Hey, Biff Bam Pow, a comic book podcast. Thank you for joining me. Everybody go subscribe to him. Hello, Josh. Thanks for the distraction. Ozzy funeral. Oh, that is rough. I know you're a big Ozzy fan too. One of the godfathers of metal, perhaps. Sadly passed away last week. Hello, Dana. Thank you for joining me. But yeah, I'm bringing this back. It's going to be weekly. Noon on Wednesdays is going to be the time, so you can mark it on your calendars. But subscribe if you haven't already. If you're watching this, whether you're watching it live with me or later after the fact, subscribe. And if you are watching after the fact, feel free to drop some comments. I always go back and talk to people outside of the live stream whenever they're watching it after the fact in the comments. I chat with you guys there too. Badger Stump, Josh bringing the fun. And the Prince of Burritos. Yes, one of the first reality TV show kings, right? It wasn't one of the first reality shows, but it was like the first reality TV like family show, which we've seen a plethora of since then. Recently bought a bunch of books from Fantagraphics site with their SDCC sale. What did you buy? Let me know. I love Fantagraphics, as you all would know, if you're longtime viewers of my channel. And I think the Fantagraphics catalog, the next catalog, will be coming out very soon. They have a lot of books been popping up in the various like other catalogs and whatnot, but their own isolated catalog that they come out with on their website that I always do a video on will be coming out, I think, in the next week or so, probably. I need to get with my contact actually from Fantagraphics and see if he can give me a date on when that will be coming out. But I always love doing that video. It is my favorite publisher of comics of all time is Fantagraphics, so I always love to see what they are coming out with, and they have some really cool books coming out. If I have some time today, I'll go through their website and give you a little preview of what will be in the catalog, because some of the books have popped up on their website already. But I do want to talk mostly about San Diego Comic-Con news. A lot of stuff came out of there, and we're going to focus on comics, not movies or TV or anything. I always like to keep it comics related on my channel. There's plenty of other channels that talk about superhero movies and that kind of thing. So we'll be talking about comic related stuff first. But so let's do that. So let me open up my page of my links and things. And feel free to, in the chat, talk about whatever I'm bringing up about San Diego Comic-Con, or if there's some sort of San Diego Comic-Con news that I don't talk about, throw that in there too. We are here to talk about all of it. I'm fine with you guys guiding the conversation if you so choose. So I'm going to start off with the best news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con, in my opinion. The coolest project that I was stoked to hear. But before, I'm going to go to Biff Bam Powell's comment here, see what he bought from Fantagraphics. Bought some Love and Rockets, the Jaime stuff. Can't go wrong with that. Bunch of Dan Clowes comics, also can't go wrong. All the stuff I bought, I had already read digitally, but I wanted to have them in physical. I mean, Jaime Hernandez and Dan Clowes, those are two cartoonists, probably in my top 10 favorite cartoonists of all times list. So you absolutely cannot go wrong with that. Got to have the Clowes stuff in physical form. I agree with that as well, Dana. Yeah, one video series I want to do also as an aside, I like to talk to you guys too about my video ideas and behind the scenes kind of stuff, is I'm very much a collector of like creators and cartoonists and artists and writers that I like a lot. So like I try to collect like every Jack Kirby book I can get my hands on, every Alan Moore book I can get my hands on, Dan Clowes, Jaime. So one of the video series I want to do is like all of my Jack Kirby books that I own, all of my Dan Clowes books I own. I think I've talked about this before. And I want to release maybe like one of those a week or so, because I don't have everything from everybody. Like I don't have every Dan Clowes book, unfortunately, but I do have a lot. So it'd be kind of cool to do a video of what I have, and then maybe you guys can chime in on the comments of what I'm missing, and then I can do a follow-up video or something. I think I do own every Peter Bag. I own every Peter Bag collected edition at least, because I posted a picture on Twitter a couple years ago and was like, "Here's all my Peter Bag stuff. Do I have everything?" And I tagged Peter Bag in it, and he replied, "It looks like you do." So I'm missing like some stuff that he did, like little strips that appeared in other magazines. Like I think he did some Cracked magazine stuff I don't have. He was the editor on Weirdo magazine. I don't have any of that stuff, unfortunately. I would love to see a series of books by creators. Yes, I think it'd be a good idea, because I think one thing too I'm realizing is that unfortunately my videos that are just about one book, like one overview book, don't always do so well in the YouTube algorithm. That's not to say that I'm going to deter from doing those books. I'm always going to do videos like that. I think it's good for evergreen content and my own personal thing. Like whenever I see a comic book that I want to know more about, I'll go on YouTube and type in the title and see if anybody's done a video, just to see if so I can look at interiors and things. So I do always want my channel to be kind of a database of that sort of thing if people are looking out for that kind of thing. And I've always kind of geared my channel over like the kind of the YouTube channel I wished existed. So I always do that, but I do want to do more like videos about like showing off all my books of one creator, or showing off my favorite sci-fi books or my favorite crime books, to get another spotlight on some of these other books that I would do isolated videos on. I'm similar where my reading habits are tailored towards creators rather than character. Yes, there are some characters I like to like. I'm collecting like Flash. I collect a lot of Flash comics. Fantastic Four, I collect everything from them basically that I can get my hands on. Legion of Superheroes, but a lot of those are even tailored towards creators, because the reason why I have a lot of Flash is because I pretty much have liked every writer or creator that's been on the character. Fantastic Four, I just love that comic book, and every creator that's been on it has been pretty much done something interesting with them. But for the most part, it is my collecting is much tailored towards creators. Chris Brogan, hello. Thank you for joining me. A video about Josh Crayhouse books sounds like a good idea. I do still need to do my video on Bang the Ballad of the Tiger. I promised Josh that a long time ago, and I'm behind. That's another video series I like to do, is the Cartoonist You Should Know video, where I show off self-published or really, really small independent small publishers, cartoonist. And I did one a few weeks ago where I showed off 3 different books or 3 different creators, and I just really enjoy that, because I like to put a spotlight on cartoonists that you should know, cartoonists that don't usually get a spotlight on them. And Josh is one of those. Josh is a great cartoonist that should have a bigger spotlight on him. I hate when I want to know about said book and no one has made that yet. I agree. That's my issue too, is whenever I find out about a cool comic or graphic novel, especially an older one, and I'm like, oh, somebody has to have, because like I'll see like the cover of it. I'm like, I want to see what some interiors, and I'll look all over. I can't find anything. I want to see a video flip through. I can't find it. So I agree with that. Are you a fan of Terry Moore? He was one of my personal favorites. The only thing I've read from Terry Moore, I need to dive more into Terry Moore. There's no reason why I haven't really, but I read the first volume of Strangers in Paradise, and it was good. It just didn't like pull me in as much as it does other Terry Moore fans that are like, he's like hardcore fans. I think the book that he has that interests me the most would probably be Rachel's Rising. That's like a one and done graphic novel, right? It's kind of like a kind of horror tinge to it. I need to explore more Terry Moore though. Next month or so should be good, since someone here is working on Kickstarter for Volume 3. You are, Josh. Is this breaking news? Have you talked about this before? You're working on a Volume 3 Kickstarter for Bang the Ballad of the Tiger? If that's the case, I need to have you on the show. We should do some sort of launch. Hit me up. I'd like to promote that and see if we can get you on that. And I will time my I'll time my video of the Volume 1 and 2 with the launch of that Kickstarter as well. Well, first time on YouTube news. Awesome. Yes. Get with me. We'll do that. I'll have the Bang the Ballad Tiger video queued up and ready to go whenever the Kickstarter launches, and we'll do some stuff. Rachel Rising is great, and yeah, it's one thick omnibus volume. Yeah, see, it's horror genre, right? Because I do always do, not always, sorry. This year I will also be doing this. I did it last year, and hopefully we'll always be doing this. But the 31 Days of Horror Comics in October. I did it last year. I do have a playlist on my channel. If you go to my playlist, showing off or with all those videos on there. If you love horror comics, you want to see what I covered last year. So if it is a horror comic, I will vow to read it and have it covered on one of the days of October. 31 Days of Horror Comics will be coming to you guys this October. It's a huge commitment of mine. Putting out daily videos is hard, especially when this isn't your full-time job. But it was fun to do last October, and the way I did it is I geared up all those videos ahead of time. Like I started in like July. I'm a little behind this year. Started in July reading all these horror comics and kind of recording videos ahead of time, and then I launched them all every day in October. But it was good. It was fun. I created a lot of good feedback and subscriber counts and views and all this stuff. I think I got some people jazzed up about horror comics throughout the month of October, and it's one of my favorite comic genres. Motor Girl is great. 10 issues, quick read for Terry Moore. I think that's another one. That's one with the big gorilla on the cover, right? That one's also piqued my interest. I need to try that one out. Also recommend Rachel Rising. It's very good. Yes, it's horror. Perfect. Rachel Rising. I'll review it on the channel this October. I'll see if I can get it. I wonder if my library, I have a pretty good library system here, and where my local library will get books shipped from other libraries in the state down to them, and I can check them out that way. I'll see if they have that. If not, I'll have to pick up a copy. All right, let's get to San Diego Comic-Con news. My favorite news of the whole weekend. And it was this. Let me make sure this is showing up. Okay, that's annoying. Make sure this is showing up on the screen. Okay. Change where I'm at on the screen. Bear with me for a second here. Got some pop-up ads here. Okay. So, just one more check to make sure this is showing up on the screen. Okay. Sorry, guys. I haven't done this in a while. I'm used to. Okay. So, first thing I want to talk about is the John Byrne X-Men Elsewhen project. This was awesome news. I never thought this would happen. I thought maybe it would happen like one day, but if you don't know, John Byrne has had kind of a not so great relationship with Marvel over the last couple decades or so. And he's vowed to, I don't think he ever vowed. I think that's one thing he said out of this weekend is that he never vowed I would never work for Marvel again, but he just didn't have an interest in it, perhaps. There's rumors over this Elsewhen project, if this was ever talked about with Marvel publishing it or not Marvel. And there's always rumors over whether John Byrne didn't want Marvel to do it or didn't want Marvel to do it the way they wanted to do it, or maybe Marvel wasn't interested, whatever it was. It's happening now. So what is X-Men Elsewhen? This is John Byrne's fan fiction project that he's worked on his own for free. Now he's going to get paid for it, which is cool, but for free on his own website, which I think is Byrne Robotics. Yeah, Byrne Robotics is his forum that he talks on. If you ever want to see what John Byrne's thoughts are on comics in 2025, that's, I think, the only place he really talks much. He doesn't do many interviews these days. But he's done this. He's done all the pencils for this. I think it's 32 issues worth. And the idea is that it would be as if back when John Byrne split from X-Men with Chris Claremont and went on to do Fantastic Four, writing and drawing it, it's as if Chris Claremont would have split and then John Byrne would have taken over X-Men writing and drawing, was able to tell his story the way he wanted to. That's what the Elsewhen project was. It's 32 issues worth of that era of X-Men. Because back then, it was the Jim Shooter days of Marvel, and John Byrne really wanted that to be the case, was to take over X-Men. He wanted to be the writer and artist on it. I guess I could probably get some cover artwork in here while I'm, talking for you guys to look at. He wanted to take over it. He wanted Chris Claremont to leave, and he wanted to do writing and drawing duties. Jim Shooter sided with Chris Claremont, who had been on the book longer than Byrne, and Chris Claremont would go on to keep the book all the way until 1991. So he had a 17-year run writing X-Men. And interestingly enough, that came down to a point where he was working with artist Jim Lee, and I think Bob Harris might have been the publisher at the time, or Tom DeFalco. I don't know who the publisher was at the time. But regardless, or the editor-in-chief, I should say. Regardless, Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, and they started moving it to where Jim Lee was doing plotting duties and Chris Claremont was just doing scripting. That was kind of a spit in the face to Chris Claremont, he felt, and he wanted to continue on writing the story that he had been, building for 17 years. And Marvel decided to side with the artist and said, no, Jim Lee's taking over. And then Chris Claremont left the book. So it's interesting because had they made the same decision siding with the artist rather than the writer back in 82, 83, I forget when this was, then John Byrne would have been doing the story from then on, and Chris Claremont would have gone on to maybe write Fantastic Four. Who knows? So that's always been interesting to me. That's like, they're like, no, we're definitely siding with Chris Claremont at this point in the history, but then later they didn't do the same thing. But regardless, this is John Byrne. He penciled all these issues, 32 issues worth, for free. You can still find them on his website in PDF format. People have printed bootleg versions of this in trade paperback form and omnibus format. You can find bootlegs on eBay of it, or they printed it. But again, it's just penciled form. It was never inked. It was never colored. It was lettered by Byrne. But now, through the Marvel Arts imprint of Abrams ComicArts, we are getting 3 volumes of oversized hardcovers for John Byrne's X-Men Elsewhen. And they will be relettered, inked, and colored. So fully completed. And I have to say, whenever I thought about this project, I was like, man, one day Marvel's probably going to print this. And my biggest fear was the coloring. I was like, the coloring's probably going to be that modern, garish, all brown, ugly stuff that I hate. But I have to say, the coloring images, well, I'll show you in here in a second, because Ian Chalgren, who is the designer on the book, posted some interiors showing off the levels of like pencils, inks, and colors. The coloring in this book is really, really great. It still has that modern flair to it, where things are kind of like the layers are still built there as far as like the colorization goes. It's not completely flat colors like back in the day, which I love the flat colors from back in this era, but I still really enjoy the coloring. So that's what this is. Let me go to Ian Chalgren, his Instagram post on this, because he showed some more interiors. So let me remove that. Sorry, I'm still trying to get this. Right. Well, okay, hold on here. Stop sharing. Share screen. There we go. Okay, sorry. This will be much more smooth in the future, I promise. I'm just a little rusty. All right. Here we go. All right. Is that showing up on the screen okay? All right, so this is Ian Chalgren, which is a great guy, by the way. Him and I chatted up from time to time in the DMs. But Ian Chalgren, he actually got his start designing books with Cartoonist Kayfabe, which is a channel I was a big fan of back in the day when they're around. Ian Chalgren actually designed some bootleg versions of like artist editions and sent them to Ed Piscor and Jim Rugg to take a look at, saying like, this is stuff I'm working on. And these were actually became Ian's like business cards. He would take these to conventions to different publishers saying like, here's the design work I'm capable of. Are you interested in like having me design some books for you? And since then, Ian's been getting a lot of work, which is awesome. Every time Ian posts on Instagram, great follow, by the way, Ian Chalgren, you can see his username right there. Anytime he's posting on Instagram a book that he's designing, I'm a big fan of his design work. And it's always so cool to see all his projects. So he's taken over the Atlas library over at Fantagraphics. He's designing those books now. He's designed. Let me see. I know he designed the. I just found this out this morning. I didn't know he designed the Switchblade Shorties book through Zoop of Ed Piskor's posthumous release of his comic book strip. Why don't we just look at this together? How about that? And then I'll go back to this post. Show off some of his design work. So he did the Origins of Marvel Comics reissue that just came out. You can see on the left there. The Spider-Man, Art of Spider-Man book from Dark Horse. He did that, and he's doing a follow-up book of Spider-Man. He did the Conan Colossus Artist Edition, Art of book. You can see there on the right. Switchblade Shorties there on the left. Here's the first Atlas book he did, Shiver As You Read. I got my comp copy of that, so it's really awesome. And then the Atlas Artist Library there with Bill Everett. Oh, Fantastic Four. That's the follow-up book, The Art of Fantastic Four. He's doing that with Dark Horse Comics. And then It Girl with Atlas Comics. So he's doing a lot of cool work. He's an up-and-coming book designer, and I'm stoked to see all the projects he's working on. But here's the interiors and the art he showed it off. So there's the cover image that we saw. Here's the pencil page from John Byrne. Here's the inked page. So John Byrne has said that he will be inking some of it, but then he's going to have an inker take over from there. I don't know how he's really breaking that down. I know there's a couple pages he said there'll be guest inkers on. Like I think Walt Simonson inked a page here or there. But there's, I think one of the inkers too that took over, he found through the Byrne Robotics comic book forum, like his own forum of his own fan message board forum. People like fans of his would like ink pages and show them off on there. And he found one of the inkers through that, which was kind of cool. And then here's the color. Like this looks amazing. I love this color job. Like this looks, he still has that modern flair. You can still see that it's done digitally, but this still looks of that era. Like this doesn't look too far removed from the 80s era Marvel. So I love that. I love there's actual color involved. It's not all just realistic looking browns and greens like we get in today's coloring sometimes. Here's the fully lettered page with the color on it. Just it looks tremendous. Like this project is going to look great. If you wanted to see what it would be like if John Byrne took over X-Men instead of going to Fantastic Four and Chris Claremont wasn't writing anymore, you're going to get the full kit and caboodle here. So that's a pencil page. Here's an ink page. Here's the color job, again, looking great. And then there's the lettered page, fully lettered colored page. And then here's a little behind the scenes. Ian Chalgren, if you saw the pictures that they had at San Diego Comic-Con, they had like the cover there. I guess they wrapped it around Mr. Miracle Deluxe Edition because it was a perfect size. He says in the post here. So that's also tells you the trim size, which I think is the same as the first release of the Fantastic Four Full Circle that Abrams did. Abrams ComicArts did for Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross. The first, it was like a bluish cover. It wasn't the full blown final edition they did. So it's OHC inside. It's gonna be oversized and just awesome. I cannot wait to get this. I just so excited to see that the color treatment is in a faithful way of the era. That was my one fear. So we got lots of comments, people talking about this. I love this. Keep it going. I thought it would come out when he was dead. Haha. And that was a fear I had of mine too, is like maybe posthumous release, but I'm glad that he will work for enough cash. I'm glad that he's getting paid and he's getting it through the means that he wants it to be done too. It's not just like Byrne be like, whatever, do whatever you want with these pages. Like Byrne is getting it done in the fashion that he wants to be done, and it's going to be done through Abrams ComicArts, which I'll be honest, does a way better job with their book design and the overall presentation than Marvel does. Not the biggest fan of the way Marvel does their omnibuses and their OHCs. Sometimes seem like they're not, I don't want to say thrown together, or just they don't seem to put as much love and care into the design of the books and things as comics or as Abrams does. So I'm kind of glad to see that. Like the best example I could come up with is the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror slipcases. Those are beautiful editions. I love all 3 volumes of those. Abrams did that. Marvel has the ability to reprint that material. They could put if we would have got it done with Marvel, we would have got just the basic omnibus with like, basic design, nothing cool or flashy. But instead, we got Abrams, who did this awesome slipcase, this glow in the dark, it's die cut, all this cool presentation. So cool in papers, like all that jazz. Christian Crisis, thank you for joining me, my man. This is one of the experts in my life. I always love, anytime I have an X-Men related question, I always go to Christian Crisis. He also has a great website, christiancrisis.com. He has a great blog, but also reading orders. If you're wanting to know a reading order over Marvel or DC, check his website out for sure. It's wild to me that this is becoming a reality. I know, it is crazy. 32 issues. Why is my screen all jacked up now? Yes, 32 issues. Yeah. He was just penciling pages for 32 issues worth for nothing, for no pay, just for fun. Unauthorized John Byrne X-Men bootleg fanfic picks up right. Oh, this is the Cartoonist Kayfabe review of it. So if you want to check out the video, here's the link to that. Or you can even just search Cartoonist Kayfabe X-Men bootleg, John Byrne, whatever. Type that into your YouTube box and you can find it. Yeah, they did a review of it. I think they got some of those bootleg trade paperbacks. Yeah, the colorist is solid. He was on some stories in Norse mythology, and I was pleased with his work. Oh, okay. The Norse mythology book by Gaiman, P. Craig Russell writing and adapting Gaiman's story. I love that. I have a video on my channel for showing off that slipcase and the book within. I agree. The coloring was great in there. And I love all the artists in there too. David Rubin was in there. I'm a big fan of his. Can you do a series of where to start with your favorite creators? That's actually a great idea. I was talking about earlier, showing off all the books I own of certain creators, but showing off where to start with my favorite creators. Definitely. That's a good idea, because like Dan Klaus, for instance, like I would start off with 8-Ball. They have the complete 8-Ball book, which collects the first 18 issues of that. But if you don't want to fork down the cash for that, because I think it's like a $50 book, even starting with like Ghost World would be an easy way to. So yeah, I could do videos like that. That's a good idea. Claremont was the right call. I think the best part of Uncanny are actually after Byrne, before Lee. Byrne's solo work is never as inventive and always ends with him rage quitting early. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all. I will say that his Fantastic Four run was really, really strong, though. It does end kind of abruptly there at the end. He still plotted the couple issues, I guess, before he left, so he didn't leave like very abruptly. He still kind of finished off what he was doing, but that run's still really strong. And I do also agree that Claremont was the right call. I think Claremont would have been the right call in 91. I think siding with Jim Lee was obviously, in hindsight, easy to say in hindsight 2020, because Jim Lee only stayed on the book for like 8 more issues, and then he went and made Image. So it was like you pissed off Claremont and made him quit. You sided with Jim Lee, who then left in 8 issues anyways, and then you're left with Scott Lobdell and Fabian Nicieza to pick up the pieces, which sales didn't decline that much anyways for him. So it's not like they lost. It's not like this big, to do like, oh man, they made the biggest mistake. Sales were still strong for the Lobdell and Nicieza eras. Probably piggybacking off the popularity of the cartoon and just like the name of X-Men that had been given so much cachet over the years. But yeah, like I think siding with Claremont 91 would have been the right call, because then Claremont had so many years left of stories. And it seems like Claremont's everything he's written after that has never been as good, as strong as his X-Men stuff. I think like his Heroes Return Fantastic Four stuff is probably my favorite post 91 X-Men era Claremont stuff. And so I don't know, it always seemed like he was kind of like maybe heartbroken at that point. Like that's a true thing that creators go through. Like he's kind of like, he worked on this thing for 17 years and then was just kind of like not kicked off the book because he quit ultimately. But I don't know. I always wonder that, like, what would have been like if they sided with Claremont and Claremont stayed with X-Men throughout the 90s, because he had a number of stories he still wanted to tell. Crisis agrees with you. Here's another Cartoonist Kayfabe bootlegs and doujinshi. Sorry, I can't say that word. It's Japanese. That's the Japanese word for bootleg comic. I don't know how to pronounce it though. Wish we could get that bootleg Lone Wolf and Cub art book. Oh yeah, that would be beautiful. They did release an artist edition of Lone Wolf and Cub, though. I think it's called the Gallery edition, but I digress. The cover is muddy, but the interiors look great. I do agree, but the cover it is kind of hard because it's Savage Lands. You got the brown and yellow Wolverine costume. There's not a lot of color to be had in that image, but I do agree it could be more colorful. But I do love the floating heads on the side too. I think it's a cool touch. Yeah, I love the colors. Flat enough to work for Byrne, but still modern with some dimension to it. Yes. Couldn't have said it better myself. Because I will always side with like the classic, more CMKY style process of coloring with like the flatter colors. I think there's over modeling that they do in digital coloring these days with, and always trying to make things natural too. It's like they're comic books, like they should be colorful and, you know, an explosion of your eyes of the different colors you see. I'm not wanting to read a comic to see this very natural looking stoic browns and greens of the world. Like one example too, I just recently read the Bendis era Avengers, and I was reading through one issue and the whole thing was just browns. It was just browns and greens. It's like, this is a superhero comic. Where are the colors? Do we know if it's going to have a proper ending or a cliffhanger? On the Elsewhen, I don't know. That's a good question, James. I don't know that I know anybody personally that's read through the whole thing, but I would hope so. I would think that if there wasn't some sort of ending to it, that John Byrne with this new project that, you know, Abrams is doing 3 volumes of, I would assume that he would do some sort of conclusion to it if there wasn't one. Oh, Josh says yes. Okay, well, there we go. Has Josh read through the whole thing? Dude, I wanted to tell you that I recently purchased some books you've talked about. Oh, this is awesome. Thank you, Derek, for joining me, by the way. My Favorite Thing is Monsters. Great book by Emil Ferris. 2 volumes of that. Fantastic Four Grand Design, Street Angel, and Hip Hop Family Tree will be here today. That's awesome. That's a great load there. Also, cartoonist kayfabe friendly there. Fantastic Four Grand Design. I love that book. Tom Scioli. Again, I talked about this in my overview of the book, but the whole first issue is just kind of like Tom Scioli going over through the Grand Design kind of format, telling the history of Fantastic Four. And then the second issue is him doing Tom Scioli things where he just like is total bombast, total fun. Tom Scioli only makes fun comics. Street Angel did a video on that recently. Jim Rugg's comic book, absolutely phenomenal. Those hardcovers are some of the best designed books I've ever seen. And Hip Hop Family Tree, that was kind of the impetus of the whole Grand Design thought process or project, where Ed Piskor did the hip hop history in kind of a Grand Design type format. Also love that book. I don't own the omnibus of it. I only own the 2 slipcases. And I always think about trying to pick up the omnibus because the omnibus collects back matter, like processed stuff from Piskor that's not in the slipcases. But I can't get rid of the slipcases because the slipcases include that like exclusive like mini comic in there and things. So what can you do? Anyone can hear Omar yelling in the background. Taylor speaks ill of Marvel. Yeah. Omar and I disagree on some things, especially with like coloring. One thing that we disagree about is the restoration of coloring. He absolutely loves the Marvel restoration, the Marvel Masterworks restoration of the classic coloring of like Silver Age, Bronze Age stuff, and I hate it. I much prefer the Taschen release where they scan in an actual comic book from that era and might touch it up a little bit here and there to make it clearer, but more faithful to those original colors in that process. So Omar and I can disagree. And hey, he's got Dom doing more work for him than I do, and Dom doesn't like Wolverine. So he's worse off than I am, right? If he accepts Dom, he's got to accept anything I disagree with him on. You aren't wrong, though. Titan Omnibus, just having printed in sheets shows a lot. Yeah, I agree. Just like having in papers, like Marvel, just no in papers. I will say they're at least better underneath the dust jacket. DC's classic, like Gold and Silver Age, Bronze Age stuff, where it's just that black cardboard with like the embossed or debossed imprint of the title. I absolutely hate that for like book design. DC does better work though with their dust jackets and more modern stuff under the dust jackets and things. But I agree, there could be more love for these books. Crisis is here. Yes, I agree. Christian Crisis on YouTube. Yeah, he also has a YouTube channel. He goes live, I think, on Sundays to go over all the comic books that have come out for the week. It looks like James Abel beat Josh to it. That's fun. Two of the moderators here battling it out for speed. Crisis is saying, hey. Oh, look at this. Josh with the Complete Norse Mythology video. Go check that out, everyone. Thank you. Coley's in the house. Thank you for joining me. It's been a while. It has been. I think it's been, I don't know. I think my last live show was in September of last year. I think the 31 Days of Horror Comics, I think, honestly, put me off on a pace of not having time to do the live show, and then I just never came back to it. But I'm going to do it now, weekly. Something I'm committing to. Regardless of how I feel as a person, not the biggest John Byrne's writing work fan of John Byrne's writing work, aside from F4, so I'm not all that interested in his X-Men Elsewhen personally. I love it as a kind of a what-if thing, though. I'm interested to see what his ideas were back then. And John Byrne's writing, I don't know. I will say that I think there's not much of his work that I loved after his Fantastic Four run. There's some stuff in the 90s I enjoyed, but like his Doom Patrol run, I love Doom Patrol. It's one of my favorite comics. That's another, I talked about earlier. That's another character or team that I collect everything from. I love Doom Patrol. But the only run that I've read that I did not enjoy was John Byrne's run. He's just so, and that run had Chris Claremont writing some issues and Terry Austin inking some issues. So I had like that trifecta of Claremont, Byrne, and Terry Austin in that run. So it's like the classic like X-Men trifecta of creators. And it was just some very basic superheroes, and there was nothing like interesting about it, or I don't know. It wasn't that great. I'm glad it's coming out for people to easily get. I know a lot of people wanted this. I agree with that. I agree on Lee as well. Claremont clearly had a plan up to 300. Lee's more nostalgic back to basics approach was a mistake as well. I think X-Men should always look forward. I agree with that. I wish that Claremont was, because Claremont's idea was always to have like all the X-Men characters retire or die off, and then have like the New Mutants take over as the X-Men and have like this constantly evolving team into the future. But he always faced some backlash from the editor-in-chief on that. And I understand, because you can't like kill off Wolverine and have him never come back, because he's like one of the most popular characters on the team, so he equals sales. But I also feel like Claremont earned the cachet to have his own creative freedom with that. I don't know. But yeah, Claremont had a lot of ideas up to 300, and Lee went more back to basics, which you could argue for marketing purposes was good, because they had the big animated cartoon coming out at that time, and having the animated cartoon match the team that you find in the comic book is probably a good idea. I think manga, anime, those properties do a great job of that as far as marketing goes, having the manga, the anime, the toys, the video games, all of it, the card games, all of it very succinct and in line with each other. And then I think that creates a lot of good sales and things. So I think from a marketing standpoint, Lee's approach might have made more sense, I guess. But as a fan, I wanted to see where Claremont was going to go with the characters. Comics overmolded, he says, while working on the shadows of a book. Well, I'm working on the shadows of a book. Well, come on. Tom Scioli, Godzilla Monster Piece Theater is great. Did you get Witchman? No, those are two books I need to pick up, actually. Godzilla Monster Piece Theater just came out last week. The trade paperback for it. And the Witchman is the self-published book that Scioli did, I think, through Kickstarter. And I still haven't picked that up either. I'm hoping one day to find Tom Scioli at a comic book convention and pick up some of his stuff, because he releases a lot of mini comics and things I'm interested in that I've never picked up, and I'm hoping Witchman will be there. I will say Godzilla Monster Piece Theater, IDW did like an exclusive oversized slipcase edition, but it's like $150 or something, because it's like only 100 or 1,000 copies are made or something. The trade paperback, I was disappointed. It's got glossy paper. I really think that Tom Scioli's artwork lends itself better on matte paper, but what can you do? Dana says, got to have in papers. I agree. I read Tom Scioli's Godzilla this week, and that was my first book of his. I loved it. Currently reading FF Grand Design. Watch Watchman is on the list. I'm assuming it's Witchman. I'm assuming what you're talking about, Derek. Or maybe you're reading Watchmen. Either of them are great, or would be great reads. Tom Scioli, I would recommend Godland was great. Joe Casey wrote that one with Tom Scioli. That's kind of Tom Scioli's love letter, at least in the artwork, and Joe Casey, I guess, their love letter to Jim Starlin era Cosmic Marvel, but also Jack Kirby era Cosmic Marvel kind of stuff. Really fun comic. American Barbarian is probably my favorite Tom Scioli book. That's kind of his like Conan the Barbarian story, but it's done with like this Kirby energy to it. Trying to think of other Tom Scioli books. G.I. Joe versus Transformers. Why can't I think of it? I think I might have that book over here. Do I? I do. Let me scoot on over here. Got to move the DeLorean to get this book. And actually have Godland as well, so I can show those off. There's a squeak of the chair. Sorry about that. It's a staple of this show. But G.I. Joe versus Transformers is amazing. I absolutely love this book. I want to knock down your comment just so I can show off this. This was I think it's 12 issues, and it was released in this hardcover, which was like super hard to find. But then IDW, I think they had a warehouse find a couple years ago, sold it for like $20, and I jumped on it. And it's also signed by Tom Scioli with this tipped-in signed card. But I digress. The pitch for this story was John Barber, I think he wrote this with him and also was like the editor of the G.I. Joe Transformers properties over at IDW. But pitched this to Tom Scioli saying, like, what if Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos fought the New Gods? Oh, sorry. I'm getting a phone call. That's bad form here on the show. What if Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos fought the Jack Kirby's New Gods? So those are two Jack Kirby properties. Tom Scioli is obviously a huge Jack Kirby fan, and he was sold, and he wrote this awesome comic. It's wild and crazy. My brother's a huge G.I. Joe fan and Transformers fan, and he didn't really love the story. So I don't know that it's like super faithful to the lore and mythos of those characters that you might not enjoy it if you are, but if you like the idea of Tom Scioli having fun with these characters and doing this full bombastic, crazy Kirby tribute, you'll love that. That's also where Tom Scioli developed his new art process where he doesn't ink his stuff anymore. I think it's like halfway through the run, he stops inking. So he just does pencils and the color treatment on top. Awesome stuff. I think you can still find the trade paperbacks for that. He also did GoBots, which is really cool trade paperback from IDW. But these are the Godland books, and these are really cool, beautifully designed books. They just have a giant image of a character on the front. These are the Celestial editions. I think these are out of print, but you can still find them. But look at these awesome character designs. Like, you want fun, bombastic, crazy, cosmic sci-fi stuff. If you're a big fan of like Cosmic Marvel, this stuff is so much fun. This lasted, I think, I want to say 30 some odd issues. I'll find out here in a second after I show off the artwork. But again, a true tribute to Jim Starlin and Jack Kirby's cosmic stories, but done with brand new characters in this new universe. And this was done through Image. I want to say it lasted 32 to 36 issues. 36. And the finale. So 37 issues total in these 3 hardcovers for Tom Scioli. Always love showing off Tom Scioli's work. And American Barbarian, all those other books I have upstairs. So I can't reach those at the moment. Dun, dun, dun. Dana says, I'm currently reading Stillwater by Chip Zdarsky and Ramon K. Perez. I'm in the middle of the 3rd volume. It came to my attention when David Lapham said that he was doing a series based on that work, based in that world. That's amazing. I actually just filmed a haul video, which I'll be releasing tomorrow. And one of the books I hauled was David Lapham's Hero Trade with Matt Kent. This is a Bad Idea comic. It was featured in a lot of backup strips and things of the Bad Idea comics. They even had a couple one-shots and things. But I love David Lapham's artwork, especially when it's in black and white. I think he's one of the artist that really lends himself mostly when it's in black and white. It's on like there's a newsprint paper, which I'm a sucker for. Beautifully designed books, and look, it's a trade paperback. And check this out, Marvel, eat your heart out. It even has in papers in a trade paperback. Look at that, really cool stuff. So I show this off in my haul video tomorrow, and it's a thicker trade. Look at this. I think it's like 200 pages, and it's only $12.99. You can't beat that. I'm a big fan of David Lapham, though. I didn't know he was working in the Stillwater universe, so to speak. That's a book I have not read. I need to add that to my list. Is it horror? Is it horror genre? I might have to add that to my October list. My first taste of Zdarsky. It's an awesome page turner. The Lapham series is called Good as Dead, coming out in September. Thank you for all. That's great. All the information right there is what I need. I like Chip Zdarsky's writing as well, so I need to check that out. Tom Scioli was at Heroes. He was, wasn't he? I need to go to Heroes Con. That's Josh's weekly reminder to me that I want to. I don't go to much mini comic book conventions. So I definitely need to make it out. And that's the one I want to go to the most. Because just like the show, I'm much more interested in the comics than like the movies. And I don't want to meet like the actor that portrayed this random character in this movie. I'm much more interested in meeting the creators and hunting for comics and that kind of thing. And that's what Heroes Con has always been geared towards, from what I heard. That's what I want to go to that one. Godland rules. I agree. Never read Watchmen. I'm playing. Okay, so you are talking about Watchmen. Watchmen's amazing. It's what I call the greatest comic book of all time. Some people might disagree, but I think it meets all its praise. I will say that I think the best way to let it soak in is to read one issue a day at least, or one issue every few days to let it really soak in to you. I think I've read Watchmen like 24 times. I don't know, my life, 36 times. I've read it so many times. I read it like once a year at least. And I think the best reading experience I had of it, because I always try to read it in different ways too. Like one year I read it digitally, one year I read it in one issue a day, I read in the Absolute Edition quite a bit. And so I try to always read it in different ways to try to like let it process in different ways. I think reading context and things really matter. I'm a weirdo like that, I guess. But I think reading it one issue a day was really enjoyable for me, because then it kind of let it marinate a little bit. And every other time I read it, I just plowed through the entire thing in a couple days. But it's really, really great. Great stuff. I'm glad the old family chair is part of the crew. Yes, the squeaky chair. I need to get some WD-40 for it, but also maybe I don't. Maybe I should just let it squeak on. Tom Scioli and Jim Rugg were actually here in Columbus at Space a few months ago. First time I'd seen him in years, and I guess he's getting back into doing shows again. I want to meet both Rugg and Scioli. I'm a huge fan of both creators. And Space in Columbus is actually much closer to me than Heroes Con. Columbus is only a couple hour drive from me. So I have no... Columbus, Ohio, right? Space? Is that where Space is? They do have Crossroad, the cartoonist Crossroads. What is it called? I'm drawing a blank here. CXC, I know. I'm just mixing up which word goes first. Cartoonist Crossroads Columbus. And that's coming out, and that's coming up in September in Columbus, Ohio. And I kind of want to make it out to that. I am kicking myself for not making it out last year when Dan Klaus was there. But I also want to go to the Billy Ireland Museum. They have some really cool original artwork I'd love to pull out and look at. Whoa, the Transformers G.I. Joe book's amazing. Yeah. Like I said, that hardcover is really hard to find, but you can find in the trade paperbacks, I think, readily. I do think his GoBots 5-issue series, which was only ever collected in a trade paperback, I think that's out of print and kind of hard to find. But yeah, or looks great. Yeah, it is great. It's a lot of fun. Stillwater is kind of what I'd call supernatural horror. Perfect. I'll add it to the list for October. I disagree with Watchmen. I had to take a history of comics, so it was spoiled for me. I don't know. I disagree with that notion. I think even having it spoiled for you, I don't think that ruins it, because I still find enjoyment out of it every time I read it, even though I know everything that happens. I do like kind of like the way turns its head on, where it starts off as like a typical murder mystery, and then it really turns its head on things. But I don't know. I love Watchmen. I think, and I try to not get in arguments with these people, but I always see people say it's like overrated and not worth reading and all these things. And I think that's kind of silly. It's like that's a comic that can be studied. Like every bit of it, whether you're including like the process, the way it was written, the way it was drawn, the way it was lettered by Dave Gibbons himself, the way it was colored by John Higgins, every aspect of that comic, I think, can be studied. It's not just a comic. But moving on. James Moore, thank you for joining me. If you want a comics focused festival, you really got to hit Cartoon Crossroads Columbus. We just added Joan Vasquez as a special guest too. That's right. Yes. I think I've talked to you about CXC then, James. I think it's coming back to me now. I think you've been in the comments before. Yeah. So I need to make it out. I need to look at my calendar and make sure I have it off, but I'm going to try to make it out. There's no reason why I can't. Yes, Spaces Columbus. I'm the operations manager for. Yes, James, I have talked to you then. I do remember this. I recommend the Billy Ireland. It is tiny though. You know, that's honestly good though, because if I make like a weekend trip of Columbus, I don't want to spend all of my time in the Billy Ireland, because there's a lot of good comic book shops in the Columbus area that I have heard about that I want to go to as well, like the Laughing Ogre, I think it's called. I actually listened to an audiobook about comic book shops a couple years ago, and a lot of the one in it talked about comic book shops all over the history of comic book shops, but also comic book shops were highlighted from all over the country and the world. I guess there were some in Canada, I think maybe some in Europe, but a lot of them that are featured were from Columbus. So it seems like to be a good town for comic book shops. And I know, like, drawing a blank here, the guy that did Bone, what's his name? Bone comic. I'm trying to beat the Jeff Smith. Jeez. Whenever I do these live shows, my brain goes dumb. But Jeff Smith, I know he's from Columbus, and he has quite a rich history over there supporting those comic book shops through Bone being sold throughout the years. They do behind the scenes tours at the Billy Island during CXC as well on Thursday and Friday. That has me very much intrigued, James, because that might be a good way. Billy Ireland, I'm assuming there's gonna be a lot of stuff there I want to pull. I'm thinking I'm gonna be making multiple trips to Billy Ireland Museum throughout the years, perhaps. Maybe that's a good way to get my foot in the door. Those Fantagraphics EC books look great on the shelf. They do. They're one of my prides of my collection. They look amazing. Give you guys a closer look if you can't see them. Sorry, I'm trying to turn. There we go. Those right there. I have a video on my channel showing off every volume. We have one coming up soon. The Wallace Wood Space Spawn of Venus. I actually have it over there. If anybody wants to take an early look at it, I'll go grab it. Low Hit. Oh, you want Ill of Marvel? I'm your guy. Low Hit does he loves Marvel, classic Marvel, but current Marvel, he has lots of negative things to say. I do love him, but the quality is dipping, at least this year. Johan Vasquez. We need a nice hardcover collection of his stuff. That'd be cool. See you later. Dinner's on the table. I'll catch the rest of the show later. Thank you, Dana. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy your dinner. I always want to shout out, too, Dana was the editor of Web of Horror. Great hardcover collection. Fantagraphics just recently reprinted that. And Dana was also the editor on the recent collection from, oh man, I'm drawing a blank again. I just did a video on it. Where's my brain at right now? Dana's screaming at me right now, saying like, "It's the how'd you forget?" Not the Night Drive by Richard Sala. Dang it! I did a video on this. Great book. Absolutely loved it. Great collection. Greatly designed. If you want to look at good book design, Dan Klaus designed that book. Dana was a friend of Richard Sala from back in the day, and she edited the project. Do you remember the name of that audiobook? Yeah, I can find it real fast. It's like a prose book, but I listened to the audio version because I don't have time to read prose books too much, and I like to listen to audiobooks while I'm doing things around the house. Audio book about comic shops. Let me find the title, and I'll let you know. I think it was just called Comic Shop. Let me see if this is the Retail Mavericks who gave us the geek culture. Yeah. Let me share my screen. I'll show you what the cover looks like. Might help you find it. Mm-hmm. There you go. It's just called Comic Shop, and it's by Dan Guarino, narrated by Douglas Pratt. It was really interesting, though. I liked it a lot. I try to find a lot of good audiobooks about comic book related historical topics because that's an interest of mine. And that was a really good one, though. I like that one. Oh, James Moore found it. Look at that. He beat me to it. Everyone's beating me to everything. Jeff Smith. That's why I appreciate you guys in the comments, because when my brain turns off and I can't remember anything, you guys help me out. Laughing Ogre is my local shop. That comic shop is by my friend Dan Guarino. Oh, he's the one that wrote the book then. Okay. I'm in the thanks. Oh, no. Sorry. That comic shop book is by my friend Dan Guarino. Sorry, he's not the owner of that shop. He wrote the book. I'm in the thanks, who is also involved in CXC and Columbus base. Jeff Smith is a founder of CXC, actually. Oh, all this is fantastic information. Thank you, James. So that's why the Columbus area was featured so much, which, I mean, rightfully so. Everything that Dan said in the book made those shops seem like they're really good comic book shops. They're not just, especially in the 90s era, when you talk about that in the book. In the 90s era, there's a lot of like ball card shops / comic shops where people didn't really love comics. They're just selling them because people are buying them. All the Columbus area shops seem like they're like made by people that love comics, and they're great places to go if you're brand new to comics or if you're an expert on comics. I'm excited for Quarto Maltese coming out from Fantagraphics next year. Wish they were hardcover, but now Dan can buy. Well, actually, I don't think Dan can buy it, because not only does Dan prefer paperback books, but he also prefers to be standard sized. So anything that's not standard size, trim size, he gets angry about. Josh, it's very weird. He's a strange human being, but I love him. Paperback Dan, he's a great guy. Just has a little weird tendencies. We're all a little neurotic, aren't we? But I'm excited for this. I think Fantagraphics is the perfect publisher to be reprinting Quarto Maltese, and hopefully they do the whole series. And all the European cartoonists and not just European cartoonists, but all the cartoonists that are not from America that Fantagraphics does. Jacques Tardy. They're doing Attilio Micheluzzi right now. Creepax. They're doing like all these series they do from all the cartoonists is awesome. So I'm hoping they do a whole series of that. Night Drive. Thank you, Dana. Thank you. Sorry, my brain was dumb. Got to head out. Have the great rest of the stream. Thank you, Biff Bam Pow. Night Drive. Here's the link to the video. James Moore. Here's the comic shop, the Retail Mavericks, who gave us New Geek Culture by Dan Guarino. This is the book that he was talking about. Dan is a pro journalist who used to work for the Columbus Dispatch and now does environmental journalism. That's awesome. And we're caught up on the comments. All right, it's about 1:00. I want to keep this somewhat brief. As far as like an hour, that's usually the time I like to clock in these shows. I'm trying to see what other news topics that I really wanted to hit up. The way I always design these shows is I put like 10 to 12 news topics in my stream here to talk about, and then based on the conversation, we might end up chatting about other things that aren't comic book news. But I like to let you guys guide the conversation as well. So we might not get to all the news, but if there's any news topics you've heard recently, by all means, put it in the comments. Dan and I actually, oh no, go back. Okay, first met because he was in the same birthing class as the artist I made comics with. That's awesome. That's a fun story. All right, so this is I guess the last news topic of the day, and then we'll get out of here. Everybody give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below if you're watching this on a later stream. Subscribe if you haven't already. All that jazz while I pull this up. Share screen. So this is coming out of Act 4, one of my new favorite publishers. Huge fan of Scott Doombeer and all his work he's done with artist editions throughout the years. I have a playlist on my channel showing off all the artist editions. And Scott Doombeer did all the artist editions for IDW. He pretty much created that format of collections. And then he has now moved on to his own publishing company called Act 4, and they will be published through Skybound, which is an imprint of Image. So it's like an imprint of an imprint of an imprint of a publisher. But Act 4 and Scott Doombeer is the important part. And we're getting 2 more artist editions announced. The first of which, I think they're both on this picture, actually. We're getting a Steve Ditko Amazing Spider-Man book, which is phenomenal. We've never had a Steve Ditko artist edition of any kind. I can't believe we're getting this. I don't think we have details on what stories it includes or if they're just random art pieces. But I do know that all of the pages of Amazing Fantasy 15, all the original art pages, are at the Library of Congress. I talked about this in my recent video of the Spider-Man panel by panel book that the aforementioned Abrams ComicArts did, because that book includes all the original art pages in it. So I'm wondering if that's going to be included. I'd hope so. Hopefully Scott Doombeer has the ability to work with the Library of Congress to get those pages. And also, based on the cover here, it looks like we're going to have some later Ditko era Spider-Man in there. And then the other artist edition we're getting is George Perez's The New Teen Titans. Amazing stuff. I don't think we've ever had a George Perez artist edition before. And he's an artist that format definitely lends itself to, with all the detailed figure drawing and all the figures he packs into each panel. Definitely would be a good artist edition pick up. So I'm excited for both those. I think the coup de grace, the creme de la creme of artist editions for George Perez would be like a Crisis on Infinite Earths artist edition. That'd be a fantastic one to own. I don't even know where those original art pages are, if they even have all of them in one place, or Scott Doombeer has been able to scan them in. That's a cool thing about Scott, though. Is Scott, whenever he goes to comic book conventions, he makes it very well known that of the future projects he might even want to do, like not even just like the ones he's working on, but like, I want to do this project in the future, possibly. So he'll let you know at the comic convention ahead of time, like, if you own original art pages for these, by all means, bring them to me and I can scan them in and maybe put them into a future artist edition. And he always gives you credit too, and a special thanks. So those artist editions, if you want your name to be mentioned, he always mentions your name in there too. So it's a cool little deal there. So I'm excited for both of those. It's gonna be great. At Heroes, Dan Panosian keeps dropping news about the Punisher. Then realized he wasn't supposed to say anything. All weekend I heard this new and don't tell anyone. Yeah, he's doing is it Dan Panosian on the book that Jimmy Palmiotti is writing? That looks pretty cool. I'm getting the Kelly Jones art book today. I'm excited they're continuing these. Yeah, I agree. And it looks like I was wondering if IDW was going to have artist editions in a post Scott Doombeer world after Scott Doombeer left them, if IDW would continue on that format. And they have reprinted a lot of old Scott projects. But there was one that popped up in the catalog recently. It was DC Covers Volume 2. And now I don't know if Scott worked on that at all. I don't know if it was one of the lingering projects that Scott had worked on, but just never like finished, and IDW finished it, or if this was whole cloth IDW doing their own artist edition without Scott. That remains to be seen, but interesting. I saw one of the paperbacks of the artist editions. Those are an amazing buy. Oh yeah, the Artisan editions. Those are the oversized trade paperbacks. I showed a video off on those last October. It was the Best of EC Comics horror, or maybe was it just best of EC Comics Artisan edition? I have a video showing off that, by the way, but they're still oversized, but they're not as big as the artist edition. They're more like OHC sized, if you're familiar with like the Marvel DC format. So they're still bigger than your average standard size comic, but it is a great affordable way to own that. I owned the EC Best of EC Comics one, and I also owned the Bill Sienkiewicz Mutants, Marvels, and Ninjas, and I don't know what it's called. It's like Bill Sienkiewicz Mutants, Ninjas, and Assassins, or something or other. Moon Knights, Mutants, and Assassin. I don't know what it's called. but it includes a lot of Bill Sienkiewicz era work with his Elektra stuff. I think it includes every page of the Elektra Assassin #1, which is amazing. One of my favorite comic book series of all time. And also includes all of his Moon Knight stuff and all of his New Mutant stuff. I want to own the actual artist edition of that, but until they reprint that, I have the artisan edition. It looks like IDW reprinting, which I'm not against. I'm not either. I still need to pick up Mr. Miracle by Jack Kirby. I don't own any Jack Kirby artist editions, unfortunately, even though Jack Kirby, I'm a huge fan of his and love everything that he ever did, and my all-time favorite comic book creator. But so I still need to pick up the Mr. Miracle reprint, and they're also reprinting Forever People, which I need to pick that up as well. Here's a link to the best EC Stories Artisan Edition from Josh. Oh, that's from me, but Josh is sharing the link. I appreciate that. Was there any other news? Oh, the Eisners. Let's go through the Eisners. We can stay on a little longer. Why not? It's the first show back. Why not make it a little bit of a special edition episode? Site cannot be reached. What? Oh no, here it is. So the Eisner Awards are always announced at San Diego Comic-Con. And here were the winners. Let me share my screen. Dun, 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 dun. Ba, 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 ba. Make sure it looks good for you guys. Make sure you can see it. Loading. There we go. All right. So this is coming from comicsbeat.com, the Heidi McDonald website. And this was these are the winners of the Eisners for 2025. We got some Eisner Award or Eisner Hall of Fame inductees: Junji Ito, Kyle Baker, Eddie Campbell, Ross Chast, Dan Clowes, Todd Klein, John Romita Jr. An amazing Hall of Fame class. Every one of those cartoonists or writers or letterers or mangaka deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And then we got the winners here. So the best short story went to Spaces by Phil Jimenez in DC Pride 2024 #1. I did not read this, so if anybody else read this, let me know if I need to seek it out. I mean, obviously it won an award, so it should be worth reading, right? Trying to see if there's anything else on here. Day 1703 by Chris Ware and Smoke Signal. I did read that. That one's really great. Ross Murray is Anything Sinister, and Now 13. I read that. Now is a great anthology. Oh, Now 13 also had You Cannot Live on Bread Alone by Kayla E., which was a serialized chapter from Precious Rubbish, which I expect Precious Rubbish should be nominated for Eisner's next year. That's one of my favorite books I've read this year so far, for sure. So congrats to Phil Jimenez there. Best single issue one shot went to The War on Gaza by Joe Sacco. So Joe Sacco wrote Palestine, which was his kind of journalistic comic where he went to Palestine and reported on what he was seeing there from like years ago. I forget when that was done. Just recently reprinted by Fantagraphics in a hardcover. This is kind of the follow-up of it, The War on Gaza, with more present day stuff, and this was done in a single issue. Other ones that I read here, Ice Cream Man number 39. I'm not surprised it's on there, but I've not read the issue yet. Absolutely love Ice Cream Man. It's my favorite comic book series. And one thing I love about it is that each issue is like one and done, and definitely lends itself to this category for sure. Pee Pee Poo Poo number 1 by Caroline Cash. Oh, okay. I was confused by the numbering. I was like, wait a minute. Pee Pee Poo Poo did not have a number 1 issue. It did actually, because this is like the 5th or 6th issue by Caroline Cash. But it's number 1. All the numbers have been silly. It's been like 420, 69. I think one spelled out boobs on a calculator. This lending itself to the humor from Caroline Cash. But yeah, Pee Pee Poo Poo number 1 was on here. And I think she won the Eisner last year. So she was nominated this year, but did not win. Unwholesome Love by Charles Burns was also great. But War on Gaza won it. Everybody comment down below if you have any thoughts on some of these nominations or things that I don't know much about. I love hearing your guys' recommendations as well. Best continuing series, Santos Sisters with the win. Josh, here you go. I have a video on the Santos Sisters hardcover for Fantagraphics. I was shocked at this one. This is the single issue continuing series that won, so it was credited to Floating World because they're the publisher of the single issues. Fantagraphics did the hardcover collection of the first 5 issues, I think. And I love this series. It's done with like a Archie Comics kind of kitsch look to it, but done with more of a Gen Z modern humor and storytelling. Fantastic series. Other nominations: Department of Truth. Absolutely love that series. And that's the only one I've read off this list. Fantastic Four by Ryan North. I'm very excited to read, but I've not read that yet. Best limited series went to Zatanna, Bringing Down the House by Marika Tamaki and Javier Rodriguez. That was a graphic novel, I believe. Or was it single issues? This is limited series, so I'm assuming it's single issues. I'm kind of surprised that Helen of Windhorn did not win by Tom King and Bilquis Elderly, but I digress. And then best new series was Absolute Wonder Woman by Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman. I've not read any of the Absolute series from DC. I've not read any of these series, actually. Best new series. I do want to read Minor Arcana, though. Anything that Jeff Lemire writes and draws, I want to read. And this is supposed to be... He wrote in his newsletter, which I think is Substack, through Substack, that this series he's doing with Boom Studios, Minor Arcana, is like his new ongoing. Like he said he misses doing like long ongoing series, and he misses that kind of format with books or with comics because now they're all like graphic novels or written as small story arcs or things. So this is supposed to be a longer ongoing series from him. Oh, we got some comments in here. Let me chime in because I don't want to miss this and I have to go back and figure out what I'm talking or what you guys are talking about here. Brian 12-ish. The Forever People Artist Edition is must own, in my opinion. 70s Kirby at that size is bananas. I know. I cannot wait to own that one and Mr. Miracle. And hopefully they reprint the New Gods one. All the, especially like the 2-page spreads from Kirby in that size, I could probably just look at for hours, each one of those. So definitely picking those up. That era of 70s Kirby is my favorite Kirby. Like I love Fantastic Four from the 60s. I love some comics from Kirby in the 50s, but 70s Kirby is the sweet spot. Here's my Santo Sister overview. Thank you, Josh. Should have let James do some of these. I don't know. James might be on lunch break right now. We have you as the moderator today. Ice Cream Man 39 took place in a single car wreck in a mind-bending story of everything happening during the wreck decompression. It was incredible and made me feel weird feelings. That's amazing. Thank you, Derek, for letting me know that. That's the kind of storytelling I love from Ice Cream Man. Is that it's Martin Morazzo and I'm drawing a blank again. Who's the writer? Well, Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo, and they just tell these like they're playing with the comics medium too, the way they tell their stories sometimes. Like they're just having fun with it, making these single one and done stories, and it's amazing. We need to get volume 3, the Sunday editions, by the way. We've seen it pop up in the catalog and then disappear from the catalog. I'm hoping we get those Sunday editions for the whole series because again, it's one of my favorite modern series for sure. Sunflowers by Keezy Young for the single issue one shot was great. What was that? Who published that? Let's go back to the one shots. A one shot right here. Silver Sprocket, Keezy Young Sunflowers. I'm going to add that to my list. Silver Sprocket is a fun publisher. I think they had some stories come out about them recently that I'm not super familiar with, so I don't want to talk about them right now. But some of the comics they've come out with are really, really great. I've seen this before. Okay. I'm adding this to my list. I need to check this out. That cover looks amazing. Thank you. Again, I always love reading you guys' recommendations. I need to read Santo Sisters. It's awesome. Check out my video if you want to see more on the interiors and what it's about and things. I cannot recommend this series enough. It's just straight up fun comics. I want to check out The Pedestrian. Ice Cream Man is consistently always my favorite comic on the shelf. It never misses. I agree. And I love the fact that they focus in on one and done stories, which lends itself perfectly for comic book shops, so that you can go in and pick up any issue of Ice Cream Man and enjoy it, no matter what the number is. Some of these categories I didn't even vote for any of the nominees. I just shook my head. Harvey Picar's Ghost, thank you for joining me. I haven't seen or heard or talked to you in a long time. I've missed you. Let me go down to where I was, which was Best Publication for Early Readers. The winner was Hilda and the Twig Hide from the Rain by Luke Pearson. Not surprised. It's a great series. Hilda is always great. I have not read any of the other ones, though. Best Publication for Kids was Plain Jane and the Mermaid by Vera Brosgol. First, second, and Macmillan. Surprisingly, I've not read any of these, and my son hasn't read any of these either. Interesting. I fully suspect the Scott McCloud, Raina Telgemeier comic book club book will be. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the winner or nominated for this category. Or do they have a young adult? Oh, Best Publication for Teens. It'll probably be in that category. Never mind. So speaking of which, Best Publication for Teens was Lunar New Year Love Story by Jin Luin Yang and Li Yuan Pham by First Second. Jin Luin Yang, previous Eisner winner. Love his stuff. Superman Smashes the Klan is amazing. I have a video on that, Josh, which I nominated for maybe possibly the great American novel of comics. And also Jin Luin Yang did Dragon Hoops, which is great. But some of the other ones on here, The Golf, Out of Left Field, I'm not familiar with any of these as well. Again, if you're familiar with any of these, let me know. Oh, Josh Brogan says Plain Jane was great too. I'll add it to the list. Best Humor Publication, Processing, 100 Comics That Got Me Through It by Tara Booth from John and Quarterly. I need to look that up because I'm sure if I see the cover of it, it'll dawn on me and I'll remember it. I'm usually know all about the. Okay, yeah, I've seen that cover. I've not read that though. I need to check that out. I'm going to add that to my list as well. Kids Are Weird and More for Parenthood. Jeffrey Brown. Jeffrey Brown's always great. Forces of Nature by Edward Steed. That one I've had on my radar, and I heard people say that is hilarious. So I need to check that out as well. Oh, sorry, not even please. Please, Josh, thank you. I appreciate all the hard work you do as a moderator for the chat. Well, I need to pull up these chats while I'm. Don't get lazy here, Taylor, as I'm producing this. So Chris Brogan says Plain Jane was great too. I'm adding that to the list. I read all these except for The Golf yet, and they were good to great, with Big Jim being my favorite. All right, I'm going to add Big Jim to my list as well. Here's Superman Smashes the Klan, my video on that if you want to check that out. And have a discussion too. In the chat or in the comments of that video, people were also nominating what they would think would be the great American novel of comics. Not even a please. Sorry, Josh. I appreciate you. I really do. Let's move on to Best Anthology. Godzilla's 70th Anniversary, edited by Jake Williams and others. We had EC Crew Universe nominated. Now, that's interesting. Now, the New Comics Anthology number 13 had 2 short stories nominated, but did not win the Best Anthology. That's interesting. Sew Buttons by Jonathan Bayliss. That's a long time running self-published comic. And then Peep number 1 by Sammy Harcum, which I still need to pick that up. I think Harvey Picar's Ghost, I think, told me about that one. So still need to pick up Peep number 1. I need to add that to my list. I'm going to have a long list after this video, which I appreciate. But Godzilla's 70th Anniversary, I did not read that. However, Jake Williams is the editor of the Godzilla books over at IDW, and I absolutely love and adore all the stuff that he's talking about with this new Godzilla ongoing series and universe that he's creating over there with all of his great cartoonists and writers. So I'm super stoked for that. I don't know if this was his first Godzilla project with IDW, because I think he is newer to their company. But maybe I should check that out as well. Godzilla and EC in one video. I know, right? You can't go wrong with that, right? Comic Book Hall. Oh, Godzilla and EC. That's what you're saying. Yeah, Comic Book Hall with EC Comics and Godzilla. Look at that. You're just playing like DJ over here with my videos. I appreciate that. Peep number 1 was amazing. Yeah, see, I think Harvey, you tipped me off to that one. I just need to pick it up still. And I love Sammy Harcum. Can't go wrong with that. Quality Pictures not even getting a nominated for Best Anthology is crazy. Yeah, that was a good one. I don't even know what the nomination process is for these, for the Eisners. Do they have like a small group that does the nominations? I know how the voting works, but not the nominations. Best reality-based work was the suffrage song, The Haunted History of Gender and Race and Voting Rights in the U.S. by Fantagraphics, or from Fantagraphics by Caitlin Cass. I've not read that one. That's been on my radar. Obviously, it's Fantagraphics, and I try to read most everything they do. But that one slipped through. And The Puerto Rican War, a graphic history by Jean Vasquez Mejias. I've read some of that. I think some of that was available online that I've read, but I've not read the actual physical copy. Or maybe I follow him on Instagram. That one sounds familiar. Best graphic memoir. Feeding Ghosts, a graphic memoir by Tessa Holes. We got something not... interesting. I wonder would Precious Rubbish be qualified for this category next year? That's pretty much a graphic memoir. Best graphic album, Lunar Year by Jinlu Niang and Liam Pham. Final Cut not winning is interesting. Or my favorite thing is Monsters. Or Sunday. Interesting. Wow. This is a category I think I did talk to Harvey Picard's Ghost about this in the DMs, because there's three in this category that I would have had trouble picking. But Sunday by Olivier Schwan should have... I mean, I shouldn't say should have won because I've not read Lunar New Year Love Story, so I can't speak to that. But Sunday by Olivia Schwan was the best thing I read last year. Absolutely amazing. Final Cut by Charles Burns, also amazing. I have a video on my channel for that one. And my favorite thing is Monsters Book 2, was also great. Best graphic album reprint. The One Hand and the Six Fingers by Ram V, Dan Waters, Lawrence Campbell, and Sumit Kumar. I've not read this one, but I do know that I was part of the video that Omar does over at Near Make Edition, showing off like all these different YouTube comic book creators or comic content creators, and like they nominate what they thought was the best read of 2024, and a lot of people said this book, so I need to check that out. But nothing else on there that I'm familiar with. Best adaptation from another medium, The Road by Cormac McCarthy, adapted by Manu Larsenet, by Abrams. This is another Abrams comic arts book that I need to check out. I did read Winnie the Pooh by A. Milne, and adapted by Travis Dandro. I have a video on my channel showing off that book, and it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed that book. Don't know much about the other ones. Best U.S. edition of international material, The Jellyfish by Boehm, translated by Robin Lang and Helge Dasher, Pow Pow Press. Haven't read that, but I have read Mothballs by Solitero. I have a video on that. It was fantastic. And Sunday by Olivia Schwan, again, not winning. How did Sunday not win? That book is amazing. I recommend anybody that's watching this video, if you've not read that, check out Sunday. It's a phenomenal read. Best U.S. edition of international material, Asia. Which one won this one? Oh, Tokyo These Days by Taya Matsumoto. Absolutely love that. That series has been amazing. Taya Matsumoto is my favorite mangaka of all time. Not surprised there. Search and Destroy Volume 1 by Atsushi Kaneko is also great, though. That's Fantagraphics. I have a video on that one. And then Ashita no Joe, Fighting for Tomorrow, I want to pick up that. I've not read that. I'm assuming next year we'll have some interesting editions for that, because we have some really cool manga being reprinted finally, or printed for the first time in English. Best archival collection was Thorn, the complete proto bone strips from 82 to 86. That's the aforementioned Jeff Smith, his early drawings back when he was in college before he made Bone. Other ones on here. Oh, Frank Johnson, Secret Pioneer of American Comics was great. I love that book. And Stan Mack's Real Life Funnies I've not read, and I've not read All in the Line either. Best archival collection project comic books. This is where David Mazzucchelli, Batman Year One, kind of swept all the Eisners they were nominated for. It won this one for sure. The collection is amazing. I have a video on this one. That's designed by Chip Kidd, which made it just took it up another notch, but includes every single page of David Mazzucchelli's Batman Year One, which could be possibly the greatest drawn Marvel or DC comic book of all time. It's up there for sure. Not surprised that it won here, but there are some other great additions in here. The Complete Web of Horror by the aforementioned Dana Andra, who was in the chat. Great book. It's been reprinted by Fantagraphics. I'm hoping to do a video of that this Halloween for my 31 Days of Horror. The Farewell Song of Marcel LeBrun. I have a video on that one by Attilia Micheluzzi. I don't think Josh is going to be able to keep up with all these videos I'm shouting out, which is fine. You don't have to post every single one. The DC Comics Style Guide looked great. I have not picked that up yet. And Wally Wood from Wits End, I have not picked that up either, but I definitely want to own it. X-Men Manga Remastered, I have a video showing that off. And I think it's called like Marvel Does Manga. It was fun. It was a fun read, really well designed book. The book looks great. I don't think I would have voted it to win here, but it was a cool release regardless. Best comics related periodical journalism. I'm here on comicsbeat.com showing this off to you. And look who won. The Beat by Heidi McDonald. I've been reading a lot of old Amazing Heroes issues from the 80s. Again, working on a project that I'm not ready to announce yet. But so I've been going back and reading a lot of this old stuff. And Heidi McDonald wrote a lot of stuff back then for Amazing Heroes. So that's cool. Best comics related book. Tell me a story where the bad girl wins. The life and art of Barbara Sherman. I have a video on this book and some other good ones in here. American Comic Book Chronicles 45 to 49. I've not read that volume, but those books are amazing from Tomorrow's. If you want to check those out, they've done one for every decade. It looks like they split the 40s maybe into 2 volumes, but regardless, if there's a decade of comics that you're interested in, pick up that volume of American Comic Book Chronicles and it's a treat. Kate Carew, America's first great woman cartoonist by Eddie Campbell. I've not picked that up, but it does look great. Q&A by Adrian Tomine. I have that book and it's awesome. I don't think I would have voted it to win. Reading Love and Rockets by Mark Sobel. That might have been torn between that and Tell Me a Story Where the Bad Girl Wins. Both those were really, really great. Walt Disney's Donald Duck, The Ultimate History. I have that book. I've not done a video on it yet, though. I need to. But Tell Me a Story Where Bad Girl Wins is awesome. Caitlin McGurk did all the writing and work in that. And also got there was like, what is it, that Sunday morning show that does like, I don't know. They did a feature on it, though. It was really cool. Best academic scholarly work was Drawing the Feminine Bande Dessinée and Women, edited by Margaret C. Flynn from Ohio State University Press. Ohio State University is where the aforementioned Billy Ireland Museum is in. I've not read that book, though. I'm not familiar with any of these books, actually. From Gum Wrappers to Richie Rich, the materiality of cheap comics. That's going on my radar. The title sounds very interesting. Again, I love comics. I love books about comics, so that's a category I'm interested in. Best publication design went to David Mazzucchelli, Batman Year One, designed by Chip Kidd. So Chip Kidd won that Eisner, which I think he's won some before. Some other great ones in here. Bill Ward, the Fantagraphics Studio Edition. Oh, Brian Boland, the Batman Killing Joke and Other Stories. I think the design of the book is great. I think Chip Kidd did a little bit better with Batman Year One, so I'm not going to argue against that one. But I do have a video showing off the Killing Joke book, and it is amazing. It's not just Killing Joke. There's so much Brian Boland artwork in that book. It's definitely a book that I've revisited since then. Like, I just read Animal Man, so I went to see if there's Animal Man art in there, and there is. Scott Pilgrim, the box set was on here, and the Walt Disney Donald Duck Ultimate History. The best digital comic. Oh, let's hold on. Let's catch up the comments before I get too far away. Looks like you guys have something to say here. Pictures. Taylor failed us. No Godzilla playlist. I'll fix that because I have more Godzilla books on the way to show off. The Heart That Fed was great. I'm going to add that to the list, Chris. I like your tastes in comics, so I'll definitely. I always like to try out books that you recommend. I know the publisher has to send in a title with paperwork, usually by February. It is a small team that reads and votes. Oh, See, that's interesting. I want to be part of the nomination team. Feeding Ghost was great. Lunar doesn't seem to fit that category. Okay, well then why did it win? That's interesting. I couldn't figure out what to vote for between Sunday and Final Cut. I agree. Both those were great. I would have voted Sunday though. I think I liked it just a little bit more than Final Cut. Final Cut's amazing though. Speaking to a ghost. This sounds like Satan. Oh, jeez. Oh, like the band Ghost. Is that a ghost joke? Ashita no Joe feels more like Duck Comics than manga. Interesting. Like in the storytelling, you mean? You need Kamui also. I do still need to pick up Kamui. And I'm assuming that's probably going to win the category next year. I'd be shocked if it didn't. I voted for Complete Web of Horror. Dana's going to love to hear that when she comes back and watches the stream, the end of the stream. Absolute. Oh, here's my video for Absolute Batman Year 1. Well, that's Absolute Batman Year 1. Do you have the Artist Edition video? Did you already post that? Oh, geez. StreamYard's freaking out over here. Hidden Life of Trees was pretty great, and Jellyfish was great from Chris Brogan. Chris reads like a ton of comics. I think he's always showing off his haul from his library. His library has a great system. Hold on a second. What is going on here? Sorry for that. Have things going off here, going crazy. The Whitson box set from years ago is an amazing collection. I know, I still need to own that. Like that, I hope that Fantagraphics reprints the Whitson box set. That's kind of why I didn't get the Wally Wood book, because I want to have the whole Whitson collection. Here's my Attilio Micheluzzi video from Josh. Best comics related journalism was the worst category. Well, journalism for the comic book industry is very much lacking. So the choices aren't the greatest. But I don't know that any year is a good year for that category. I'll be honest. Marvel does manga. There's my video for that. The Beat in particular is a complete trash website. Yeah, listen, I'm between Bleeding Cool and The Beat. They both get criticized and probably rightfully so a lot. But the thing, and I feel like this about mainstream news as well, not just comic book news, is that I don't like this overarching branch of like, you know, like this channel on TV sucks, so I don't listen to anything they say because of one thing or whatever. I think there's still, whenever they're delivering the news and it's straight news, like this article that I'm showing off from The Beat right now, it's just straight news, the Eisner winners. Like that stuff's fine to me. But can you trust them with like when they put in their opinionated stuff? Like that's where you have to discern it yourself and agree or disagree with what they're saying. But as far as like pure journalism, we don't really have that in comics, unfortunately. I would have given in the American Comic Book Chronicles. That series is amazing. I really do. I need to pick up some of the volumes I'm missing still. And Tomorrow's is a great publisher for that kind of stuff. It seems like a weird category shrug. Killing Joke was my pick. David Weiss says that. Dave, thank you for joining me, by the way. Okay, hold on. I promise I'm not slow right now. It's StreamYard's really hampering what I've got going on here. Dave Weiss, thank you for joining me though. Here's my Killing Joke Gallery Edition video. Scott Pilgrim was amazing. Hate it went to Ollie's. Yeah, it was weird that Oni Press liquidated a bunch of those. I don't have those. I didn't get the box set though. It does look great, but I have the hardcover color editions. I got those from Jess Bragg, Omnidog, so they're kind of, you know, a little bit special, so I don't really want to get rid of those ever. And I don't have room in my collection for 2 versions of Scott Pilgrim. Those other books seemed art forward, and Lunar is more story forward. Oh, okay, that's why you said that Lunar is weird for them to be in that category. Here's my artist edition video of Batman Year 1. So you have 2 different videos on Batman Year 1. That's how good it is. Bleeding Cool is light years better than The Beat. Oh, that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. I just like to mix up who I'm showing off here. So I show off Bleeding Cool articles or The Beat as far as like, again, I said what I needed to say about the news and how it's delivered. Best digital comics, those are like their web comics. The winner went to My Journey to Her by Yuna Hirasawa through Kodansha. Oh no, that's best digital comic. Then we have best web comic as a different category. All right. So was that just like Kodansha did the digital version and has not released a physical version? What's the difference here? Life After Life for the web comic here. Why wasn't Bang the Ballad of the Tiger on here, Josh? Who do we need to talk to about nominating you? Best writer went to Gene Lewin Yang for Lunar New Year's Love Story. James Tynion, Kelly Thompson, Ram V, and Tom King were the other nominees. And those are, they have a best writer artist right here. This is a different category. This is when you get the cartoonists that both write and draw their comics. So we have Charles Burns one, rightfully so, for Final Cut, Unwholesome Love, which both got nominations in the Eisners, and then Comics, which is a great book showing off these fake comic book covers from Charles Burns. Emil Ferris was nominated. My favorite thing is Monsters Book 2. Definitely agree with that one. Olivier Schwan, again, so many nominations, but never won. That's sad. Olivier Schwan is amazing. Best penciler inker or penciler inker team went to Bilkis Evely for Helen of Windhorn. Also was the artist on the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow book. Other ones in here. Oh, Manu Larsenet did the road for the Abrams, the book that was best adaptation of a different medium. Interesting. Then we got best painter multimedia artist, Eduardo Rizzo won for the Blood Brothers Mother for Distillery. And then best cover artist went to Tula Late for Mellow of Windhorn #1, Count Crowley, Dawn Runner, Somna, and other titles in a Horizon Experiment. Hayden Sherman was on here, Bilkis Evely. Hold on a second. Why wasn't Alex Ross on here for his Fantastic Four work? His current work is amazing, period, Alex Ross stuff. But his Fantastic Four covers were great. Like he really was varying his compositions and working with different methods and things and stuff. He's leveled up since he where he originally was. Can't believe he wasn't on there. Best coloring went to Jordi Belair. Jordi Belair is a great colorist. All the things I said earlier about comic book coloring, Jordi Belair is one of the good ones. Matthias Lopez, I like his coloring too. Javier Rodriguez, Dave Stewart, one of the all-time great colorists. I think he's always nominated in this category. Best lettering went to Clayton Cowles for Animal Pound, Helen of Windhorn, FML, Absolute Batman, among others. Emil Ferris was nominated also. That's always a fun category, the letters get real bent out of shape when it goes to someone that's not like a traditional letterer like Clayton Cowles is right here. When it goes to like if it went to like Emil Ferris on My Favorite Thing is Monsters, like she letters her own work, but she's not a letterer in comics that does multiple projects. I don't know. It's always funny to hear that, but I think the lettering that Emil Ferris did in My Favorite Thing is Monsters is great. That's it. That's all the categories. In the Eisner Awards. So what are your final thoughts on the Eisner Award winners as I try to stop sharing my screen here? Bear with me if you can hear the audio. My screen might have froze. I'm trying to... Am I back? Am I live? Okay. What are your final thoughts on the Eisner Awards? And as we get out of here, I'm going to go through my last minute plugs. Everyone type in your last thoughts here in the chat, and I'll address those after my plugs, and then we'll get out of here. But tomorrow I have a haul video I'm going to be posting, showing off a bunch of stuff that I hauled recently, which is a lot of stuff. A good combination of stuff. We have Marvel, we got DC, we got something from Bad Idea, which I showed off earlier. We got a classic 80s series from DC that you might not have ever heard of, that I showing off in my haul that I collected every issue of, which is exciting to read. So that'll be coming out tomorrow. Then later this week, I also have a video coming out of the I'm trying to see if I don't have it here handy, which I can reach. But the woman, it's a Fantagraphics book. I'll be showing off that later this week. I think I'm gonna do my Hulk Taschen edition video this week as well. I need to get that video out, and I'm trying to see other videos that I have coming out in the future. But yes, everybody, please subscribe. Give the video a thumbs up. If you're watching this after the fact, after the live stream, comment down below on the video. I always go back and reply to those comments as well, so you can still join in on the chatting fun. And I'll be back next Wednesday and every Wednesday for the future, once a week at noon, to go over the comic book news and chat with you guys about comics. I'm back on the live show train, and I'd like you guys to join me on the ride. All right, let's get to these last comments before we get out of here. Okay. Scott Pilgrim mimics the Akira. I think they changed more. They charged more. Oh, how it opens up like the Akira box set. That's a great box set. I love the Akira box set. Bingo on Kodansha. I didn't submit this year. Well, maybe you should next year when you have your big Kickstarter for Volume 3 of Bang the Battle of the Tiger. How about that? Brittle Joints is great. Okay, I'm going to add that to... I have a Chris Brogan list I need to put together. Sadly, the art was the only good part of Helen of Windorm, in my opinion. Chris, that's interesting to hear, and kind of sad. I've not read that yet, but I did just recently read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, and I feel like I'm the only person on planet Earth that did not love that comic. The artwork was absolutely brilliant. I love the artwork, and I'm not anti Tom King. There's I love Tom King's Mr. Miracle. There's some Tom King's books that I absolutely love. I've not read everything he's done, so I'm not a Tom King hater, but I did not like that story at all. It was not great. So I don't know. Maybe I'll feel the same about Helena. I had some people that I told that I didn't enjoy that comic tell me that Helena Windhorn would be more my style, or maybe something I'd enjoy more. I don't know. The issue with awards, webcomics never get nominated for other categories. That's true, but that's why you need to have physical collected editions to get into the categories as well. A lot of webcomics have been doing that. There's plenty of webcomics in department stores and things. So I'm not that surprised by that. I would love to see that artist on something else. Elkis Beverly. I agree. No, she too is great. Yeah. These big categories were all jokes. I didn't bother to vote for almost any of them. ScreenYard needs to fix a lot before doubling. Yes. StreamYard, I think you're referring to. StreamYard, yeah, I don't have the paid format either, so maybe that's my problem. I don't buy the premium edition. Maybe that's what I need to do. Yes, James Abel, thank you. I do have a Discord. Here's the link to it. It's also in the description of this video. We chat comics over there as well, and I appreciate that. Oh, hi, another mod. Eisner Awards, about as bad as usual these days, were my thoughts. Yeah, they're like any awards show where like the Academy Awards, the Grammys, whatever. Like, there's always criticism of like, have they even really nominated everything? There's like people, releases that should have been considered, but it's always great to still have that notch in your belt if you win one. I hope at some point they give an honorary one to Cartoonist Kayfabe. Unfortunately, I don't think they will. I think it's probably too late for that, but they definitely deserved it for some. Like, do they have? I guess comic book journalism. Maybe they did review a lot of stuff. Should have been considered for that, but definitely one of the best comic book YouTube channels ever. I agree with that. I still find myself watching old Cartoonist Kayfabe videos all the time. Still torn between being stoked and then bummed from Nate Garcia being nominated for and not winning an Ignatz. Yeah, the Ignatz Awards. Though I don't be too bummed. I think Nate Garcia is going to win some awards in his future. He's still very, very young in the game, and he's so ahead of his time as far as his art talent goes for being so young that he's going to win some awards in the future. Absolutely. An Eisner, something, he's going to win. I wouldn't be too bummed about that. Really like Helen Windhorn. Can't wait for the deluxe edition. You didn't get You didn't love True Grit in DC? I thought it was okay. I do feel he overwrites a ton. That was kind of my issue with that book. The aspect of like telling the story through the journals written by a character that I didn't really care about was what killed it for me. And there's so many times that overwrites is a great way to put this, because there's so many times that there's this great spread by Elkis Beverly that's like, man, this is amazing. But these journals were just coming in, and like these journal entries. And I was just like, the writer of the journals was overwriting the journals. I was like, shut up. Like, just let me watch the artwork, read the artwork, and let me have the artwork tell me the story. You, like, I don't know anybody that I've ever read a journal of, a faux journal, a real journal of, that was so verbose in the writing. I thought journals are supposed to be like, this happened today, just like for memories or whatever. But this person's like writing like all this purple prose, and it was too much. Maybe it will be because I love Supergirl. Well, that's the thing, though. The Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow movie that's coming out. I don't talk about movies on here too much. I try to keep it comics related. But I will say I'm still excited for that movie. I love the Superman movie. And I think the depiction of the Supergirl character in that story, Woman of Tomorrow, was great. I just wish I would have heard things from her point of view rather than the journals written by this other character I didn't care about. Josh, I still can't believe that. Even a printed edition, if you like webcomic, you are stuck there. Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm already stealing myself for Devil's Grin to be snubbed next year when it's clear frontrunner for multiple categories. It should be. I agree 100%. I know you've been beating the drum, Harvey, for previous years for it to be considered for best continuing series, which I think it is very much appropriate for that. But also, now that we have the collected edition, hopefully it gets more recognition next year in the Eisners. Issue 2 was all captions in Supergirl. I don't think I even recognize that, but probably. I won't lie, after that Tom King series, I will not hear Silver Age is too many words. Right. Thank you, Josh. There's so many people that only read modern comics, like Tom King comics or whatever. They're like, I don't read Silver Age. There's too many words. Like, are you kidding me? And he's not the only modern writer that writes so many words or whatever. But I hate that criticism of Golden Age and Silver Age comics. There's too many words. Like, get over yourself. They're great comics. I mean, sure, certainly there were comics in the Silver Age, Golden Age that had too many words in the sense that they could have edited out a bunch. But just like every era of comics, there's good and there's bad. But that's it. That's a show. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Oh, we got one more comment here. Oh, 2 more comments. What do I need to do to get you to champion Bang? Has he read Bang? He should. I never would have expected to get best continuing series consideration, to be honest. That kind of thing never gets in the category. I know you say that, though, but Santos Sisters won. And I know Santos Sister isn't self-published like Devil's Grin is, so it's a little bit different. But I was shocked that that's usually a category that goes to like some sort of Marvel DC project. The fact that Santos Sisters won was kind of surprising. I don't know. I need to read it first. Well, there you go. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me. Thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you next week for the live show, but I'll have videos on my channel throughout the week of pre-recorded stuff as well. Everyone, keep talking comics.